Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us tonight on episode 4, season 2 of The Standoff with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. We're here live every Wednesday on Facebook throughout the season. It was another great round of footy, Richie, but after ending last week's show confident in our picks, we had a shocker.
We did a bit, didn't we? They started poorly. They got a bit more accurate as the weekend went on. But it was a good weekend of footy and some talking points to come out of it.
Definitely. Now, while we're here live on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m, you can also catch the show via our podcast on iHeartRadio at your convenience. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. So tonight, we're going to be covering everything you need to know in the week that was rugby league, including our top stories of the week, a review of the round 2 matches and our picks. We'll then stop and answer some of your questions. Then we'll preview the round 3 clashes and make our picks. And then we'll end the night with some Super League news. So tune in, get your rugby league news, and remember to send us comments and questions throughout the show. So let's get into the top news stories. Rich, first one I've got is the potential for a Trans-Tasman bubble to open in mid-April. Do you think that means the Warriors could potentially play some football in New Zealand soil this year?
Yes, I'm going to be half glass full on this one. So I'm going to urge all the Warriors fans to get out and pack Mount Smart. Get ready to pack out Mount Smart. The team deserves it when they return home.
Definitely. I think the biggest concern, for the Warriors in the NRL will be that if this does open up and they have some teams here and then something happens and it all gets shut down, you could potentially have 2 teams stuck in New Zealand. So I think it won't be, if it does open up in April, I think they probably will still stay till June and just give it a couple of months to settle in, and then hopefully that means June they could come back and have a game at Mount Smart. And I think it's going to pack out. I find it hard to believe that they wouldn't be near sellout for the first game since August 2019.
For sure.
So next up on our news, had this come out a bit earlier, it probably would have affected our picks last week, but Jason Tamalollo is out for a month after breaking his hand at training. As soon as I heard this news, I knew the Cowboys weren't going to win, and unfortunately I had picked them, so it wasn't good for me. What were your thoughts on him going out with a broken hand?
Yeah, I picked them too. This is about the last thing they need to, isn't it? It's a big blow for them, their best player pretty much, and they've already had a tough couple of opening rounds. So, yeah, it's not looking good for the Cowboys with that news, but, hopefully they can tough it out for them.
Yeah, big task ahead for them for the next month, that's for sure. So the next news we've got is Warriors related. The Warriors have signed Broncos youngster Reece Walsh on a 3-year deal. From what I've seen, he looks like a very exciting and talented fullback. Can't really believe that the Broncos let him go.
Yep. Is it the Gus Gould effect? I don't know. I hear he wined and dined him a little bit. And I hear he might be seeking a release early too to come here this year potentially. Potentially if there's a player swap on the table maybe.
Yeah, I've heard that he would like to get out early, and the Broncos are only really going to agree to it if they can get a player in return. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that.
He was awesome on the weekend too. Did you see the highlights? I think he got a couple of tries and kicked a few goals.
Yeah, I think he was 6 from 7 with the goals, and he got 2 tries. So he looks very talented. I haven't seen a lot on him in the highlight reels on his defense, but he definitely is doing quite well attack-wise. So I think he'd be great, and I think bringing him in early could be quite beneficial for him to have a bit of one-on-one time with Roger. Yeah. We'll just have to keep an eye on that and notify you guys as soon as we hear any news on it. More Warriors news, though. Chanel Harris-Tavita is set to be sidelined for up to 12 weeks due to a stress fracture in his foot. He had surgery yesterday and has come through that okay, but it's a big blow for the Warriors, especially already losing Aitken in the centres to lose Tavita as well.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I think he's the kind of player too that relishes having consistent game time. I think he would have only got better. I know he was carrying a quad niggle. and a couple of little niggles. So, yeah, tough for Chanel, but now O'Sullivan gets a chance. Hopefully he can show his worth.
I see Gavin Gould's put a comment on talking about the Warriors looking at James S., which I assume is James Seguiaro, former Cowboys and Sharks player. Any truth to the rumor? I haven't heard any noise on it. Originally, I heard that they weren't that interested, but I think with the injuries and stuff now, they could potentially be looking at him. I'm sure they could get him at a bargain price right now, and he's a very talented player.
Yeah, I hope that would be kind of cool if he were to come here, if he were to leave his baggage across the ditch. I know he's carried a little bit of baggage in the past, but he's an awesome little player. I wouldn't be too upset with that.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of baggage, the next bit of news was Bronson Cherry's now officially been suspended by the NRL Anti-Doping Tribunal for 4 years after being found guilty for taking testosterone in 2019. We covered it last year when he originally failed, and then they went and took his second sample, and that's come back positive as well. So very interesting, very talented young player, but I don't know if he'll come back from this. 4 years is a long time.
Yeah, I think in his case, he's kind of lucky he's got time on his side. He's still a very young man, but you know, he's made a mistake, obviously, and he's made his bed. He's got to sleep in it.
Definitely. More naughty boy corner. We got the round 2 charges from last week with some bad plays from Felici Kafusi. He's got 2 weeks for an elbow. I thought he probably deserved a bit more. It wasn't very good. Delhi, Zisliaks got 2 matches for a high tackle, which we're going to cover in a couple of minutes in the Panthers Bulldogs game. 2, I think, might be okay with that one. It was accidental. It was reckless, but wasn't on purpose. There's a few more too, isn't there, Rich?
Yeah, we had a couple of crushes over the weekend from Crossland with 2 matches, and Tanoa Brown from the Warriors game got 3, and then we had Felt from the Dragons against the Cowboys, Felt for the Cowboys against the Dragons. He put a dangerous throw on Jack Bird. I think he did it a couple of times, but was only penalised once. I think most of them are fair. I think it's just the Kaufusi one and Tanoa Brown. Kaufusi definitely, I think, looked like he sort of dropped the elbow with a bit of force and obviously knocked him out. You'd think a bit more for what he did. And Tanoa Brown looked a bit like he was dealt with a bit harshly. I don't think it looked too much. What did you think?
I thought it was a bit harsh, but it's due to the loading that he had from previous charges. I think if he hadn't had previous charges, he might have got away with a week. Gavin Gould disagrees with me about the Cleary hit. I think there's definitely arguments on both sides. The fact that Nathan Cleary went off and as we're going to cover in a little bit, he's not going to be playing this week. It's definitely a huge loss to the Panthers. So you could argue that Dallin could have got more. But yeah, I think it's just more to Dallin's kind of clean record. I think's probably helped him there.
I think you're right.
And then some signing news. We've got Maiko Sivo, after having a great round that we're going to discuss shortly against the Storm. He's signed on for another 2 years at the club. What are your thoughts on it, Rich?
Yeah, the king of Bankwest. Eels fans will be happy. He brings a lot of strike to their left side, so they'll be happy to get him tied up. They wouldn't have wanted to lose him.
Yeah, I just don't see him wearing another jersey that isn't an Eels one. I think it was always gonna happen that he was going to stick around. So it's great to see that he didn't get poached by another team. I think there's a lot of high-quality wingers out there, but I'm sure if he came out onto the market, someone would have picked him up. Potentially, Melbourne Storm might have looked at him to come in and replace George Jennings. especially with that O'Carr leaving. So it's great news to hear the Eels have wrapped them up early. We just covered it about Nathan Cleary, but Nathan Cleary and Ryan Pappenhausen have been ruled out of the grand final rematch this week, clearly due to that high shot. And Pappenhausen's being rested due to a neck complaint. Kind of takes a bit of the sting off the grand final rematch, doesn't it?
A wee bit, yeah. You in these kind of games, you kind of want each team's best lineup facing off. But being a contact sport, these things will happen. So, yeah. That news had me to and fro between my tip for that game this week. So, yeah, it's a bummer, but yeah. I think it'll still be a good game, I think.
Yeah, both sides have still got heaps of talent, so it'll still be exciting. But I think Pappenhausen's been playing really well. Nathan Cleary's one of the best halfbacks out there right now, so it would have been great to see them go against each other. But I'm pretty sure we're going to see it once it gets to finals football anyway. And last bit of news, just to end on a positive note, Warriors players Adam Fanor-Blake and Ben Murdoch-Masila were seen helping an elderly lady changing her tyre in the rain on their way to training. It's really good to see the Warriors players stepping up in their foster hometown. I was talking with some people today saying that it's great to see they're very helpful, but being a former prop, I know we kind of look at anything to get out of training for a little bit. So I'm not sure. Don't want to say they didn't do it out of the goodness of their heart, but I'm sure missing the beginning of training might have been a little bit tempting too.
No, this is cool, Brad. Don't take the shine off it. No, I thought that was cool. I hope Nathan Brown doesn't give them too many laps for that, for turning up late. Yeah, that's a nice story.
I mean, Brad, it only takes 3 hours to change a tyre, doesn't it? I mean, they weren't that late.
I'd still be changing it now. But it's great to see, and especially being in Australia and being in that community, the fact that they're out there doing things like that is only going to help win them new fans and hopefully get some more people to come watch them. I've seen bits and pieces from other players out and about going to cafes and stuff and trying to give back to the community for supporting them. So, hopefully we hear some more good stories to counter the bad naughty boys that we keep getting.
Yeah. All
right, so let's get into our round 2 review. We had first up on Thursday, we had the Eels defeating the Storm 16-12. It was the first of many wet weather games that plagued this round, and I think it was a grand final worthy clash. It was really competitive. The result was surprising. I didn't think the Eels would have what it took, but I think it came down to their halves. They were just putting on a clinic. I think the moment they saw Sivo had it up and over on George Jennings, that's what they decided to do. And George, I've talked a lot about how much I like the guy after what he did for the Warriors last year, but he just had a shocking night.
Yeah, this game was just fun, eh? It was old school wet weather footy, and I don't know if the weather was a bit of an equaliser because I had the Storm tipped, but I think this game just was the Eels a little bit putting their hand up and saying, "Don't forget about us. We're in the fight this year." But yeah, it was cool, and just big defensive plays from Gutherson at the back just typified what got them over the line.
Yeah, definitely. So I think he made about 4 try-saving tackles. So the Eels were definitely stepping up their defense against a very good team. I think one thing, I got a bit of flack about it in an article I wrote, but I said this game here might have been the first indication of the struggles the Storm might have with our regular feature, Cameron Smith, being gone. It didn't change the game as such, but he has such a way of just taking hold of a game, I guess you could say, and wrestling the opposition, pun intended, out of the game. And they were just kind of missing that. You saw, like, once it got into that tough tussle, they looked a bit unsure on what to do. It's something that someone's going to step up and take that kind of role for them, but he's such an experienced player. I think this was the first time you looked at them and went, okay, they are actually missing him a little bit. Doesn't mean that they're going to fall off the wagon, but definitely showed that there is a little bit of weakness here.
Yeah, I think those arm wrestle games are the games where you'll notice Cam Smith not being there.
Definitely. So yeah, it was our first game we got wrong in our picks, so that was always a great start. The second game on Friday didn't do us any better. It was our second one we got wrong, with the Knights defeating the Warriors 20-16, getting the win in the last moments. Unfortunately, I think the Warriors be scratching their heads at how they let this game slip. They were behind early on, and then in the second half they got themselves ahead. Looked like it was theirs for the taking, and then Bradman Best just opened the game. Peter Hick, who's I think still trying to find the tackle that he was meant to make, and broke hearts. Definitely broke hearts in my house.
Yeah, I've been through a few of those in the past. I think it played out a little bit how we previewed it last week. I mean, a grind of a game, really tough to tip the result, and I think the Packs did a lot to counter each other, and it was, I think, the Knights just took their chances a bit better, and that was the difference.
Definitely, and Adam Fanor-Blake went off early in the first half with a calf injury. Did come back in the second half, and even with those limited minutes, he still managed to finish the game on 143 meters. I think personally for the Warriors, I think they looked a little bit flat in the first half, but the bounce back in the second half, they played a lot more up tempo, which was a positive sign out of a loss, to see that they can be behind on the scoreboard and get themselves back into a game. It's just that little bit extra they need to, if they get the lead, to keep the lead. What happens this week will be interesting. We'll cover that when we preview it, but without Chanel and Aitken in the defensive line, could be tough. And for the Knights, I think the Knights, I picked the Knights as a team that were going to drop out of the 8, and they've proven me wrong so far. 2-0. They're looking good. They've got a great forward pack. Mitchell Pearce is doing well, and they're going to get Kalen Ponga back in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it bodes well for them. I was kind of like you. I was not picking them to be threatening the top 4 or anything, but they look decent so far. They do. And once Ponga's back, they'll upset a few teams.
Definitely. And the next game on Friday was the Titans defeating the Broncos 28-16. David Fafeta kind of came back to haunt his former club. He scored 2 tries and was consistently attracting several defenders whenever he had the ball in hand. He was just a monster. We talked about it in the game when the Warriors played the Titans, that he was a bit quiet. And I think he's stepping up now and showing how dangerous he can be for the Titans and how good they can look. We've got to put a bit of an asterisk next to it because it was against the Broncos, who are now on their 13-game losing streak. But I think the Titans are looking a lot better now than they were last week.
Yeah, they showed big improvement on the previous week against us. That's for sure. Fafita looked like a weapon out on that left edge. He was breaking all sorts of tackles and got a couple of nice tries. The Broncos, what do you say? It looks like they're putting in better effort, and TJP was in for a big game, and he looked like he was hunting for Fafita a lot of the night, and especially in the second half, was coming out trying to put shots on him, and he wound up with a try himself. But they have those periods where they fall asleep, and I think the Titans scored 3 tries and 3 back-to-back sets, and then that was pretty much game, set, match.
Definitely. I think the only positive you can get from being a Broncos fan was they are putting the effort in, and the fact that they actually scored 2 tries towards the end of the match to make the score a bit more flattering. We've been talking on this show, it seems like forever, that the Broncos are just a first half team and they fall away. So it's showing that maybe they're trying to get a bit back in that second half, but I just don't know. I don't know when they're going to get their first win. It could be this week maybe, or it could be weeks away.
This weekend maybe, yeah. I know they play the Bulldogs, so they will be licking their lips at that one.
So is this Broncos' problem with their bench? In fact, when they rotate players, they just don't have the strength and depth there. So hence, they take a couple of players off, and suddenly they'll give up some tries, bring those players back on. They stiffen up again. Is it part of that rotation, or
I think it's a problem with their 17.
Well, I don't see their bench being too bad. I mean, they bring on big bodies like Flegler and some decent guys. I think it might be just a mental thing, because they just lapse in periods, and people like Milford start falling off tackles. And I talked about him being key to how their season goes, and you know, him falling off easy tackles on well, I say easy, but tackling David Fafeta is not easy. But
No.
you know, he looked like he just sticks an arm out and he runs right through it. And it's things like that which keep them losing, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a confidence thing. I think they got the players there that can make them competitive. They just don't believe in themselves yet. It's kind of a cliche kind of answer, but I think it just comes down to that. If you're not confident, you're not going to perform well. So Kevin Walters got to do something to fix that, changing the behavior so they are a more confident team. They show in patches that they can play well. It's just about making those patches a lot longer.
Yeah.
First game on Super Saturday had the Panthers defeating the Bulldogs 20-0. It's another record for the Panthers as they become the first team in the NRL to keep their opposition scoreless in the opening 2 rounds of an NRL competition. Another asterisk game because it was only against the Bulldogs. I think as a Bulldogs fan, I'd be quite happy that they kept the Panthers to 20. Unhappy that we didn't score any points, but to keep the Panthers at 20 points when you've got other teams putting cricket scores on teams, I think is a lot better and a step in the right direction for the Bulldogs. I think for Panthers, though, Kikau and Momoriski were attacking on both edges and doing it almost at will. And yeah, the biggest talking point was the high shot that saw Nathan Cleary leave the field. And the Panthers definitely lost some sting when he went off, but I think the damage was already done at that point.
It was. And I think this game played out pretty much how we would expect. I didn't see a 0 coming for the Dogs, but yeah, they look to be carrying on their form from last year. So it makes for an interesting matchup this weekend, Bulldogs versus Broncos, because they're not looking too flash. But yeah, pretty much I expected something in the vicinity of 12 plus to the Panthers, and so it proved. Definitely.
Next game on Saturday was the Rabbitohs defeating the Seagulls 26-12. We talked about it a little bit last week, but about Adam Reynolds potentially leaving the club because they don't want to offer him a long-term deal. In the first half, I think he showed why he should get a longer deal. He kicked a 40-20, scored a try, was accurate with all his kicking. He did collide with a Seagulls player that saw him leave the field and fail an HIA, which might also strengthen the Rabbitohs' reason to only offer him a deal for 1 year. But luckily for the Rabbitohs, they lost a halfback and they were able to bring some guy called Benji Marshall on, who apparently is okay in the halves. And he kind of turned back the clock again. He led the Rabbitohs like he's been doing it for years and kind of made sure they stayed home because the Seagulls, they improved this week. They came real close to scoring an upset here.
Yeah. It's handy having Benji to come off the bench, for a situation like that.
Definitely.
The other thing out of the game was Latrell Mitchell being sin-binned. He had a bit of contact on DCE during his kick chase. Looked to not be too much. And also, there's been a bit of criticism thrown Daly's way for milking during the game. What do you think of the sin-binning, Brad? Fair or no?
I don't think it was fair. I'm a forward, so I think every back's kind of milking whenever they get hit. So, yeah, I think it was a bit unfair. But Cherry Evans, he knows when the refs are watching, and he'll definitely put on a performance. There was even, I think they showed footage later on where there was a wry smile from him afterwards, which is usually a telltale sign. Luckily for the Rabbitohs, that sin binning didn't cost them the game. I think if the Seagulls had managed to get a win here, it might have been a bit more talked about afterwards.
Yeah, for sure. But, the Rabbitohs bounced back nicely and got the win there. Wasn't good for our tips.
No. And Jordan Clark's commented saying Manly Rabbitohs were the game of the round for him. Wasn't my game of the round, but it definitely was up there. It was a very good game to watch. Going on to the last game on Saturday, we had the Dragons defeating the Cowboys 25-18. Again, full disclosure, I would have picked the Dragons to win this if I knew Tamalollo was out. As soon as we heard that news, I was like, oh, okay. The Dragons have a chance here. And I think a positive for the Dragons was Ben Hunt standing up and the return of Corey Norman. I think they worked really well together and kind of just managed to add some attacking sting to this Dragons team, which has been lacking for some time, even back when they were together last year.
Yeah, it looked like the Ben Hunt from 2015 for the Broncos, leading them up to the grand final. Taking on the line, he looked good. He looked dangerous and got a nice try. But yeah, I think I tipped the Cowboys there, and I thought they might have enough in them at home. But yeah, credit to the Dragons. Maybe they're not going to be as bad as we thought. They showed some signs.
Yeah, they did. I think for the Cowboys, the only thing I could really pluck out of it positively was Valentine Holmes and Scott Drinkwater. I think they both played well, but they need more than two players to step up. And I think Todd Payton's got his hands full, and it does make me wonder if he's preferring the Warriors job right now. Maybe he might have a bit of regret letting that one go, because I think it would be a lot more enjoyable to be coaching the Warriors right now.
Yeah, agreed. And he needs people like Michael Morgan to stand up for sure. I mean, he's on a big salary, isn't he? On something like $1 million a season or something pretty close. He's the guy you want to be taking the bull by the horns, especially with Tamalollo out hurt.
Yeah, he's one of their top paid players, and he's one of their more experienced ones. So he really needs to be stepping up and doing something for them. Otherwise, they might have to start planning ahead. First game on Sunday, I don't know if we really have to talk about it that much, but the Roosters defeated the Tigers 40-6. New opponents, same result, with Roosters scoring 40 plus for the second week in a row. Brent Morris, ever trying to tell everyone that he can keep playing, scored another hat trick, ran for 220 meters. He had 3 line breaks, a line break assist, and he also did a try assist. I think I was looking into it to do some research, and it looks like he's the first player in the NRL to go back-to-back with hat tricks in the opening 2 rounds. Do you think he could do it again?
Unlikely. They've got a tougher game this week, but it's amazing. He almost doesn't age, and we've talked about him a bit over the past couple of weeks, but yeah, I think he's even leading the Dally M leaderboard right now.
He is, yeah. Unbelievable at his age to still be doing it. And looking at those stats I just said, it's not like he's just sitting out on the wing and waiting for a pass. He's actually going in and doing work, setting up tries, running. So yeah, at his age, it's great to see him still putting that effort in. And all the talk about Joseph Suaalii being like ready to go and getting his exemption, I don't see him making this Roosters team right now.
No need right now, but he's there to learn off Teddy, and I've seen some stuff online of Teddy already enjoying working with him. So, I bet they're hoping that'll bear fruit in the future.
Yeah. So yeah, not really much to say about this. It was another training match. As you said, they've got their first real challenge this week when they face the Rabbitohs. Tigers, for them, they didn't really offer any challenge, and I don't really see them doing anything this year.
Their left edge defence was all out at sea for nearly the whole game, and I think I think, as we'll see in our preview, BJ Leilua is going to be made the scapegoat for that in this weekend's coming game.
Yeah, I think so. And then we go to the last game of the round in Jordan. This was my match of the round. Wasn't a pretty game, but the Raiders defeated the Sharks 12-10. It was my game of the round just because how close it was. It really looked like the Sharks were going to get the upset of the round with this one here. The Raiders at halftime were ahead 12-0, and it looked like they were going to cruise off and get a comprehensive win, but the Sharks bounced back in the second half. Fortunately, Chad Townsend left his kicking boots at home and missed both conversions and a penalty goal. If he got those, it would have been a win here. He's come out pretty hard on himself after the game. The rest of the team have said it wasn't on him. They had other chances to win this game. It wasn't just down to his boot. But I think the Raiders might have been worried about how they finished this game to let the Sharks come back. I think Ricky Stewart's going to be working to make sure that they keep their heads in the game for 80 minutes because they got the Warriors this week. I think the Warriors have shown that they'll stay in a game for 80 minutes. So they're going to need to bring their A game, especially with the massive 4-pack the Warriors have.
Yeah, if this version of the Raiders turn up against the Warriors, I'd fancy the Warriors, but I also see it could be, Ricky could be having a good go at them this week, and we may also have a bounce back from the Raiders. So that's something to be wary of. But yeah, it was a close game. You feel for Chad. Oh, to be a goal kicker, eh?
Yeah, it's not a job I'd want. I can't kick the ball, so I'd be fine. But yeah, tough night for him. So that was round 2. Paul, if you can bring up the ladder, and I'll go grab our picks. And we've got the ladder there. So we picked the exact same game. So we got 5 out of 8. With us getting the Storm game wrong, the Warriors game wrong, and the Cowboys game wrong. So that leaves us, I'm on 11 out of 16, and Richard, you're still in the lead, 12 out of 16. And so well done there. It won't last long. I'll come back.
It's close. It's close.
We got so Roosters, after their 2 comprehensive wins, they're sitting top of the table. Got the Panthers right behind them. I think the fact that they've had no points against them is definitely helping them right now. Raiders, despite that shaky game, are in 3rd, and the Knights, surprising everyone, being 4th right now. Then we've got the Eels at 5th, the Sharks at 6th. Warriors managed to stay in the top 8 at 7th, and then the Rabbitohs finishing out at 8. Still got some good teams in the bottom 8 right now, namely the Storm. Pretty sure it won't take long for them to sneak their way into the 8. You've also got the Titans and Dragons sitting at 10th and 11th with a chance to potentially get up there too. Then you kind of get down to the woe is me teams, which is the Broncos at 12th, Cowboys 13th, Bulldogs 14th, Tigers 15th, and then Seagulls sitting 16th. Doesn't really help them, I think, that match against the Roosters. It's no coincidence the bottom 2 teams are the teams that have had to play the Roosters. So, yeah, not good for them. But, yeah, I think at the moment there's still a lot of room to move for basically 11 and up.
I'm just happy to see the Warriors in the 8, but, yeah, a lot of movements to happen.
We'll take a snapshot of that and hopefully it lasts a bit longer. So before we get into our previews, are there any questions from the crowd?
Yeah, so Vicky wants to know, well, first off, Vicky, thank you for saying it's a great show. She'd like to know, after 2 rounds completed, would you change any of your pre-season predictions?
Yeah, I'm being a bit shaky on my Dragons being the wooden spoon at the moment. I think it's a 2-horse race between, well, 3-horse race, I think, between the Broncos, Manly, and the Tigers right now. I think the Cowboys will get a couple of wins under their belt and will get out of that. But I think at the moment, those 3 teams are the teams I'm worried for. And the Dragons, I think, are going to surprise me.
I think it's mostly playing to script for me so far. All the teams I sort of picked for my bottom 4 are in the bottom 4. Yeah. Just hopefully the Warriors can climb a little bit.
The that's
Definitely.
that's actually. And one other thing was Gavin mentioned something around about did E. a former Newcastle current Storm player, also get a drug ban a while back?
Yeah. Ah, there is one. There is one out there that had a ban that's come back. So yeah, he can come back. As Richard said earlier, he is quite young, so in 4 years' time, he might still have a shot.
Yeah, we had a Shandor Earl as well. He ended up coming back from a lengthy drug ban. He used to play for the Raiders and then came back for the Storm. So I think he's got time on his side.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think
okay.
Jordan Clark's perhaps getting mixed up in the TMO and the bunker, but suggesting should the TMO be banned for getting more than one wrong or fined?
It would be nice. It'll never happen. They're the most protected species in the NRL, the bunker. But yeah, I think there has to be something, not an incentive, but something there to kind of punish people for making the mistakes, where they do come out every week and say, they're only human too, which is true, but they have all this technology to help them make decisions. If you find one getting it wrong consistently, there has to be something done.
A little bit of accountability, eh? I mean, you'd expect. I would expect mistakes from an on-field referee more than a TMO. You think with the technology they'd get it right more often than not. Yet we still see some howlers, like on the weekend.
So, boys, the challenge for the week for the season is to get the head of referees on for an interview, so we can figure out how to get that job. Because it's dead easy, right? There you are, nice comfy chair, watching the games, just basically flipping a coin to decide what the decision is, and you keep your job.
Exactly.
You just got to push the right button. That's it.
Yeah. So before we go on, I've got a question for you, Richie. With the rumours of Reece Walsh looking for that early release, 1, do you think the Warriors should grab him now? And 2, what player would you be offering to the Broncos to get him?
I'd love to have him now, because I can only see benefits of him coming here and working under RTS before he does his dash. What player would I be offering? I'm not sure what they want, whether they want like for like. I know we've got some. Do we see him as someone who might have more value than someone like a Hayes Perham or something I like Hayes, but, someone of that caliber who's a fringe player. Oh,
yeah.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what players. You've got the Hayes Perhams, you've got guys like Joshua Curran, and that, but I don't know if they'd be looking for a second role when they've got Jordan Ricky and TBJ out there. So I think they definitely would be looking for a back. And Hayes Perham is really the only one I see there as one that you could potentially let go with this kid coming in. I know that Perham was playing fullback last week for the Dolphins, but he's actually switched to centre this week. So he may have had a tap on the shoulder by the Warriors saying, we've kind of got fullback sorted now, try centre. Peter Hiku's off contract at the end of this year. So there's potentially, if they don't keep Hiku around, there's potentially a spot there for him to target. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure what players we have that the Broncos will go, this is enough to let this kid go early.
I mean, if it's just a fringe player, it'd be kind of, I think I'd take it on the chin to get this young fella across. I mean, it's a business nowadays, eh? I mean, this kid could learn a lot from RTS and get involved in the culture a bit earlier.
Yeah,
getting to know the boys can only be good.
Definitely. You got any questions for me before we move on, or?
Yeah, so from a Warriors fan point of view, mate, what was your thoughts on the Wade Egan no try from the bunker, and also Tanoa Brown's charge with the judiciary? Because that one, I was in my view was thinking penalty only. I don't want to sway your opinion, but what did you think of Wade Egan's no try and then Tamalollo Brown's charge?
I think I was not happy with the no try, but it didn't last long because the Warriors basically scored a few tackles later. So that if the Warriors hadn't scored there, I think it would have been a whole different story. I know there's a lot of people unhappy with the call, and some people have even said it cost the Warriors the game. In my opinion, I don't think it did. I think it was like for like. They basically just had to wait a couple more minutes to get their try. But I saw the replay. I've got a giant TV in my lounge, so we got to see it up and close, and I couldn't see what the bunker saw in that try. The commentators couldn't see it either, so it was a bit shocking for me. Tamalollo Brown, I'm biased because props don't do bad things when they tackle. They're big boys. Things happen. The crusher tackle seems to be happening all the time now. Doesn't really be something that's done on purpose from a lot of players. So I think he was hard done by, but I'm biased as a Warriors fan and as a prop. So yeah, I wouldn't have even done a penalty.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I saw on Wade Egan's try. I saw the ball half buried through the try line. And Tamalollo Brown's one, it just looked accidental, and I think it's bringing into play a lot of guys laying down for penalties, and that's almost that's almost what it looked like. Yeah,
I think the only way they can combat that is if they make a rule where if you're in a crusher tackle, it's an HIA or it's straight away. That player has to go off. That's really the only way I can see them filtering out those guys that are playing a bit of Hollywood and making it look worse than it was. If you know that you're going to go off and potentially disrupt your team, you might not fake a Hollywood there, and then the actual crusher tackles will be punished as they should be. My thought.
Got to agree. Got to agree.
Got to see what happens. So we may as well get into our round 3 preview and our picks. Hopefully we're a bit better this week, but we see Simon's got his picks now. He's got the Storm by 4, Dragons by 4, Roosters by 8, Raiders by 8, Broncos by 4, Eels by 8, and Knights by 10, and then the Titans by 10. So he's a lot more into his research than us. So I'm not going to give scores out because I'm always way off on my scores. But first up on Thursday, we've got the Panthers versus the Storm, the grand final rematch with a couple of players not there anymore. I made my pick before I heard about Pappenhausen, but I'm going to stick with it, and I'm going with the Storm here.
Yeah, I'm going with Panthers. I've gone backwards and forwards on this one because I heard Nathan Cleary was ruled out, and then I found out about Pappenhausen. So I guess for me, those two cancel each other out. I know they both bring a lot to the table, and I'm just going home ground advantage, and I'm going to give it to the Panthers for a bit of revenge for the grand final.
Yeah, fair enough there. It's it's a flip of your coin kind of game. I think Matt Burton, he's been one of the most talked about players because the Bulldogs want him. It probably shows why the Panthers didn't let him go, because if they had, they'd have no one right now to come in and replace Cleary. So I think he'll want to prove himself, which might help you, but I'm hoping that the Storm don't want to lose 2 in a row. So I have my fingers crossed because I really need to get this one. First game on Friday, we've got the Dragons versus the Sea Eagles. It's another close game. I think the Dragons are going to win it here. They've impressed me more, and I think the Sea Eagles still don't know how to win a game yet.
Yeah, this is a toss of the coin game for me. I think both sides showed a bit of improvement last weekend. Dragons getting the win. Manly, Sea Eagles not quite, but they showed improvement. I'll give it to the Dragons, though. I think they showed some good signs in the win over the weekend.
Yeah, and then the last game on Friday is the Rabbitohs versus Roosters. I'm going with the Roosters. I think, admittedly, we haven't seen them against great competition yet, but I think their attack's firing, and I think the Rabbitohs still got a bit of problems with the ball handling. So Roosters edge it out.
Roosters for me too. They just been super red hot, albeit against opposition not offering too much back. But I'm going Roosters, only just.
Yeah, and then the first game on Saturday is the Raiders versus the Warriors. I've picked the Raiders here. I'm hoping the Warriors show us a good performance, but I think the Raiders are a better team right now when Chanel and UNH aren't in the Warriors squad.
Yeah, I've taken Raiders here too. And they had a bit of an iffy performance, and now I think they'll offer a response this weekend. And I think the Warriors losing CHT and having to bring in some new combos into the spine might be a deciding factor. I hope I'm wrong, but that's my pick.
Yeah. Then the second game on Saturday is the Broncos versus the Bulldogs. I'm going with the Broncos. I know they've lost 13 in a row, but they've got to hit a win at some point, even by accident. So I think their best chance is against the Bulldogs right now. So I'm giving the edge here.
I'm giving Brisbane their first W here as well. I think they won their last outing between these two sides last year, which, if memory serves me right, was also the Broncos' last win. Didn't help them avoid the spoon, but I think they'll have enough to get over the Bulldogs in this bottom of the table battle.
Yeah. And then the last game on Saturday, we've got the Eels versus Sharks at Bankwest. I've got the Eels. I think the Eels are a better team, and it's hard to beat the Eels at Bankwest. So I think if you're playing at Bankwest against the Eels, you're automatically in trouble.
Yep. Eels get up for me. They look like the better team on paper and in better form also. So that one was pretty straightforward in my eyes.
Yep, and the first game on Sunday is the Knights versus Tigers. I've got the Knights. I think the Tigers haven't shown anything. The Knights have been really impressive.
You said it. I think Newcastle will get this one done without even needing to get out of second, third gear. I think the Tigers were really poor last week, and the Knights have been looking consistent over the first two rounds. So I think they'll get up.
Yeah, and then the last game we end with the Cowboys versus the Titans. I think it's going to be a repeat of last week. No Tamalollo, no luck for the Cowboys. So I think the Titans might put them to the sword in this one.
Yeah, the Titans shaping to be the premier team coming from Queensland, and Cowboys look probably, it's tough to pick the worst team out of Queensland between them and the Broncos, but they've had a tough start, and despite being at home, their home record of late isn't very flash. So Titans, I think Titans get that one.
Cool. So that's our picks. We only got one different this week with the Storm Panthers game. So hopefully tomorrow night I'll at least be on level with you come next week. But yeah, so I've got the Storm, you've got the Panthers, and then we both picked the Dragons, the Roosters, the Raiders, the Broncos, the Eels, the Knights, and the Titans. Judging by my performance last week, I'm not overly confident that I'm going to get them all right, but I'm hoping that I'm going to have some momentum coming back.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Cool. And then before we go, I've just got some Super League news. So there was one trial left last week, which was the Warrington Wolves defeating the Lee Centurions 34-12 in the final clash. And Thomas Ulawai has been named captain for Wigan for this season. So another former Warrior getting a captain's nod. So that's great to see for him. And the first round actually starts this Friday. So I've got the draw for the first round. We've got St. Helens versus the Red Devils in Salford. Lee Centurions are playing Wigan. Wakefield Trinity versus Leeds Rhinos. Cavalin Dragons versus Hull KR. Hull FC versus Huddersfield Giants. And the Castleford Tigers rounding it out against the Warrington Wolves. So we'll be able to have some results next week in this section. But it looks like some good clashes there. I'm interested. I'm going to try to get up early in the morning to watch the Wigan Warriors play, and I want to try to check out the Warrington Wolves game too, because I'm pretty sure Greg Inglis is playing in that one.
I was just going to ask.
I want to see how he goes.
Yeah,
I tried to find the team list, but I couldn't see it. But I'm pretty sure he's not got any injuries, so he should be playing.
Sure. I heard Tim Sheens is lining him up to play in the. I think they have the Super League English players versus the overseas players.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
Cool. And Simon's put a comment out saying that all the Super League matches are on this weekend on Sky Sport 4. Hopefully team not named St. Helens leads a Wigan not win the competition. I have to disagree because I'm a Wigan fan. I want to see Wigan win, but if it's not Wigan, I'm happy with it being anyone else that hasn't won in a while. It'd be good to see some new people there. It is always kind of predictable that you're going to have like St. Helens, Wigan or Leeds win the whole thing. But yeah, it's great to see Sky actually putting them on Sky Sport 4, which is basically their league channel now. So I'll try to watch as many of them as I can.
Yeah, me too.
Cool. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show for tonight. Thank you for tuning in and joining us on the Standoff with Brad and Richie for your weekly update on rugby league. Tune into our show next week at 8 p.m. here on Facebook or at your convenience on iHeartRadio. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. Thanks for coming on again, Rich, and good night, everyone.
Yep, thanks all.